Previously on the Snake Sports Talk Show.
Chicago needs to take it easy on Justin Fields. I'm not saying easy in that aspect. But what I'm saying is pump the brakes before you kind of screw up this whole process. Everybody was basically looking at, well, there's our reality with Justin Fields. Stop throwing this Debbie Downer thing all over the media. Doesn't help your cause. As I've said before, that Justin Fields is the future of this franchise.
A new day in the Snake Sports Talk Show starts now.
What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network. Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake Silva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again, and you know I love this stuff here, and we've got a lot to talk about all over the sports world. I'm excited for it. I'm sure you all are super excited about it as well. Man, we got a lot to go through here today. Jake the Snake Silva here from the Snake Sports Talk Show as we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and of course, follow me on Instagram, all the social media platforms to keeping you up to date with everything on the sports news. We got a lot to really talk about, and the season's just literally right around the corner. Season's right up around the corner. I am excited for what the NFL season's going to bring. We just got 2 new starters. I'm going to talk about that here later on, and I just can't wait for it. So just to give you guys all the breakdowns. So, of course, in today's episode, I have our very own coach, Dante, who's going to be joining me here in a moment just to be talking about Houston sports, the Rockets, the Astros, and, of course, the Houston Texans, and, of course, talking a little bit about Eagles football. And so there's so much to break down. And look at that, folks. I got my own WWE towel up there from SummerSlam the past weekend. It was a lot of fun. It was so great. And, man, it was awesome. If you guys haven't done so already as well, because we do offer up a lot of different merchandises from T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and, of course, a lot of different accessories, Rep for your favorite network and rep for the shows on the network here on the SpotlightSportsNetwork.com under the merchandise section, powered by Spreadshirt. And also on the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking about the 32 quarterbacks. Just before going into this season, I think we already have a wrap of all these quarterbacks. I really do think we do. So later into the show, each division, because I've already done division predictions. Now I'm going to do quarterback rankings based upon all of the divisions. And it's going to, and you'll be surprised. You'd be surprised of all the quarterbacks that I have from here. So speaking of quarterbacks, we've got two different news. Let's start off in Jacksonville, Florida. So it is official, Trevor Lawrence, the era has begun for the Jaguars. So Jacksonville made the announcement earlier this morning that Trevor Lawrence is, in fact, their starting quarterback week 1 against the Houston Texans. I don't think it was such a surprise at all. The number 1 overall pick, he's going to be very exciting to watch, and is a guy that I think, honestly, as a generational talent, you're going to bet every money in your pocket to watch this kid do some things we've never seen before. And this is the era. I mean, he caps this era, folks, because Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and all these quarterbacks, and now you have Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. There's all sorts of these quarterbacks. I think this is what capped off the era. And now it has officially begun. But let me tell you something about Jacksonville. I've said this over and over again in my show previously. The Jacksonville, give it about 2-3 years on this puppy, because Urban Meyer is a type of guy who's strong on defense, is a guy that also loves to be a specialist on offense. Trevor Lawrence is the caliper. He is the focal point to making this offense a powerhouse. Defense is going to come the next 2-3 years. So at this point, you're shaping yourselves to be better than what you were last year. And now with Trevor Lawrence at the helm, this is going to be exciting to watch. But let me tell you something about what is going to happen in this scenario. Gardner Minshew is going to be looking for a job. And I don't blame him, honestly, because you can get a lot for Gardner Minshew. He's a kid that can play. He's not an elite quarterback. I don't expect him to be like a Patrick Mahomes or any of those other top-tier quarterbacks. I don't expect him to be. But I could tell you from all the list of quarterbacks, because we think about this with Baker Mayfield, not a special quarterback, but he executes plays. That's what Cleveland needs him to do. And that's what Cleveland asks him to do. Just execute the plays. We don't need you to be Mahomes. We don't need you to be Lamar Jackson. We just need you to execute plays and do your job. And that's what Cleveland's been successful for. In Gardner Minshew's case, because now Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback of this franchise, the era's begun. There are 3 teams I feel like Gardner Minshew can fit in well, because his value is still, his value's good. He's got a good throwing arm, makes good decisions. And I think if he's led in the right direction, you could get a lot for him. There are 3 teams in mind that I've thought of. The very first one, and I think this is compatible. You guys can think of this any way you want to. The Washington football team, I feel like, is a beautiful fit for Gardner Minshew. Let me explain to you why. First of all, you already know their starting quarterback is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. And they also have a backup in Taylor Heineke. What are the quarterbacks that we're going to see next year in college? Is there even going to be a specialty type quarterback that we might see in next year's draft? I don't know. I feel like this might be the last one. So if you're Washington, and think about what are the good things about Gardner Minshew coming into Washington. First of all, he has a competent head coach in Ron Rivera, who is alpha male. He puts his boot down, strong on defense, and gives the quarterback confidence. I think Minshew would be fine in this. Plus, he's got offensive weapons. Cam Sims, Terry McLaurin. And he's also got a tight end And he's got Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. That's a really, really good, promising offense that will give you points. But here's the other thing. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and a lot of these other guys on defense in the secondaries, and Ron Rivera pushes harder on defense than he would be up onto the offense. But all he asks is execute your position. That's going to give Gardner Minshew a lot of confidence. And I feel like Washington would be the ideal fit because let's be honest, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not going to be the starting quarterback for long. Okay? He has a resume of being really good in week one. We've seen this in the last few years of his career. Week ones are cake for him. It's the down the stretch type of moment. And Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't look the same after all that. Look at the situation in Miami. It was a mess. It was all over the place. And then they settled it that Tua is their guy. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, I feel like, could fill the hole, at least for now, when it's all said and done. And listen, Taylor Heineke, here's the question. Do you really think he's going to end up putting a performance like he did in the postseason again? It's risky. But I guarantee you this gives Washington a little room to breathe. You make it happen with Gardner Minshew and you bring him into Washington. Whatever happens with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he can come into a good offensive line. Brandon Scherf and a couple of these guys, they are good linemen. They can protect in the interior. Don't kid yourselves. And you've got an offensive core. You've got a strong, capable defense that can stop the opposing offense. And mind you this, I'm going to get into all the quarterbacks within the division later on, but the only quarterback you really have to worry about at this point is Dak Prescott. That's about it in that division in the East. Okay, and then there's Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones, which are kind of question marks. So Washington could have room to breathe because who knows who's going to come out of this quarterback class next year. I don't think we're going to have a single special quarterback out of this draft next year. Second, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts right now, and this is what's kind of interesting. I mean, it's an optional pick, but if Chris Ballard is looking for a guy that's willing to be serviceable, but I doubt Gardner Minshew wants to be that type of person. He wants a starting job. But it's a good ideal fit because at least that's more insurance for Carson Wentz if he gets hurt again, and you've got a strong, capable offensive line that's going to protect your quarterbacks. Lastly, the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, and listen, these backup quarterbacks for Dallas is terrible. Okay, it's terrible. Dak's coming off of an injury. And let's be honest, if Dak gets hurt again, the Cowboys are out of the playoffs. Their hopes of making the playoffs are done. They can't win without him. So if Gardner Minshew comes into Dallas's system, which, mind you, it is a pressurous type organization because it's Jerry Jones, it's the power, it's the money, and it's also the marketing. But this gives you reassurance for Dak if he gets hurt again. Plus also even some rest time. Because Dallas needs some sort of juice that's going to, at the very least, get them over the top in their division. But I think if you asked me, Gardner Minshew, I feel like would be a fit in Washington. I really, really do think that. I've been evaluating this. I evaluate every single one of these teams, and I hear this. I hear it every day. I hear it every day on the radio. I'm a radio freak. Okay, so I listen to all of this stuff. I feed into information, and all I do is break down every single information that's there. So, but now let's shift over to Denver. Okay. Oh, there apparently seems to be water under that bridge in Denver because now Drew is locked out of the quarterback position. Yeah. The Denver Broncos announced earlier this morning that their starting quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater. I'm sorry to say, Denver fans, but it's over for Drew Lock. This era for Drew Lock in Denver is over. listen, Denver has to make this work. You got a coach that's on the hot seat, which honestly, I love Vic Fangio. I think he's a really, really good, competent defensive coach. But he can't get you over the stretch. And the fact of the matter is look at the offense from last year and the year prior. This is a team with Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Melvin Gordon, and you can't win games. Now, mind you, they lost Von Miller for the rest of the year, but you still have Bradley Chubb. You still have a bunch of other different alternatives in this defense. And now you have Patrick Surtain and Justin Simmons. There should be no excuses for Denver at all. But it's tough when you are the fourth quarterback in that division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr. Derek Carr is efficient. I don't care what anybody says. He is the heart and soul of that Raiders franchise. People hate to admit it, but it is. He's completing 70% of his throws. Let's be honest, folks. Drew Lock is completing less than 50% of his throws. He's completely lackadaised, and he is way too that cool guy. No sense of urgency. That's why I've lost it. He was out for the year. I think it was like a torn. I want to say it was like a torn ligament. I think it was on his ankle. I think he was out for that entire ankle injury. But that's the one thing you have to think about with Drew Lock. This is why that I said it's over, folks. Drew Lock has become a complete reach for the Denver Broncos. That pick itself says it all. And that's it. I don't know exactly what to tell you, but that was like, Denver's got to make this thing work. But let me tell you something about Teddy Bridgewater and why I feel like that this could, at the very least, band-aid this issue. Because Denver has never in years inherited a quarterback that was built under their farm system. Not since John Elway. All they get are experienced type quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Peyton Manning. And now rumors are spreading about this whole Aaron Rodgers thing in next year. But still, utilize the time you have. But also, leave a positive note. Don't leave a negative note if you're Denver. I think this is exactly what was going to happen. I anticipated this because, let's be honest, Drew Lock was never going to beat Teddy Bridgewater in camp. You couldn't even beat him in camp. This tells you a lot about who Drew Lock really is. He's not trustworthy. He got locked out of the position. So, Teddy Bridgewater, and let's be honest, okay, the potentials for Teddy Bridgewater were all over the place. And I felt bad for him. He came into a Minnesota organization. He got hurt. There was a lot of positive upside. He came back by the time Minnesota was competitive. They had such a good offensive core. The defense was strong, and they have a really good coach in Mike Zimmer. And then he gets hurt. Then moves on to New Orleans, goes and joins Sean Payton. When Drew Brees got hurt, the Saints went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater. He was a serviceable type quarterback. Goes to Carolina in hopes that he'll do good. But then the new owner in Carolina is a little bit incompetent because he can't wait for a process to win now. That's why they went and got Sam Darnold. And they traded him away to Denver. So I have really good positive hopes for Teddy Bridgewater in Denver, honestly. But again, this explains everything about Drew Lock. He became a reach of a pick, not that trustworthy, not that very much, urgent type quarterback. He's too lackadaised. That's why he always remained the fourth best quarterback in the AFC West. That's it. So at this point, congrats to Teddy B, but you already knew the open reality with Drew Lock in the first place. All right, so we got more and more NFL news. So I'm going to break this down. because I've been hearing this all day. And thankfully, and I'm sure my good friend up over here from Beantown Breakdown, Bobby, who knows all about it in New England. Yes, I'm going to talk about the Patriots, bud. So apparently this morning, and I don't understand this, and maybe this is true, maybe this is false, I don't know. But New England fans were not really happy the second that Sony Michel got traded away to the Los Angeles Rams for a couple draft picks. Let me enlighten you on something here about New England. Okay, when Tom Brady was the quarterback, and even when Bill Belichick became the head coach, out of all the years I have watched New England play, New England is not a run-first type offense. They never have been. Tom was smart enough to be efficient with plays, and he had to have the right executor to make the plays happen. He was the architect. Tom was the builder. Made this system work. It wasn't the running backs. Because let's be honest, in New England, the only positions that have stayed longer than running backs, quarterbacks have. Thomas stayed there for 20 years. Then you have the offensive linemen, always top 5 every year. Now, the question remains about offensive weapons like wide receivers. Tight ends never seem to have been a problem. They were kind of on and off. And here's what's interesting. The defense had always been solid. So the defense has always been solidified, and they've been like the longevity's been great. But running backs never have stayed this long in New England. The average years has been between 1 to 3. That's the longest longevity you could give for a running back. Because last time I checked, they had Kevin Folk, Corey Dillon, Lawrence Maroney, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, Shane Vereen, Stephen Ridley. Now you had Sony Michel and James White. And here we are with Damian Harris. What's New England's problem? Damian Harris was actually running really, really good. And I thought this was a really good, perfect opportunity for Damian Harris to get more touches, to get more snaps. And because I just think he's a really good runner of the football. And then have James White utilize him with the pass catching plays. And say, because now you ain't even got Rex Burkhead. So the deal with New England, they've never been a run first offense. This is not a crushing blow for New England. It never has been after all these years. What's a crushing blow is what is in fact a crushing blow for them is the fact, the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, the defense, like this is exactly what, this is where you have to be. You got to stay healthy. And so New England, they're not going to hurt by this. They're not going to hurt. They're not going to be hurt with losing that type of running back. I mean, he's a good player. Let's be honest, but they are not going to lose that much for him. And let's talk about let's talk now about the LA Rams. The thing about the LA Rams were in trouble the second Cam Akers got hurt and now he's out for the rest of the season. They needed a running back. But this also told you at the end of the day that they do not trust. They don't trust Darrell Henderson. They don't trust a lot of these young kids. And it was safe to say. But I do think that getting someone like Sony Michel helps it. Yeah, he had knee problems. And this is the one thing. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a good thing for Sony Michel. Because it's a different change of scenery. He's got somewhere that he could literally be relied on until Cam Akers could come back healthy, but he's out for the rest of the year. So at the very least, they're not truly struggling in that position. I think that Sony Michel can help in all ways possible. And mind you, they're not lacking an offensive lineman. I think they've got a good, solid one. It's not great, but they do have a solid one. And this makes all the sense in the world. So even so, I think the Rams will be just fine. And you have to think about the division that they are in. They're in an NFC West division with Seattle, with San Francisco, and with the Cardinals. So you've got to think about, they got to keep up with this. This is the reason why that they were even in the position to go ahead and make a trade. So it makes a lot of sense. It really does. Now that they've got it, I think this is a good, I truly think this is a good thing for the Rams moving forward. It'll take time, but again, like I said, you're going to see this through and through. And I think the Rams are going to be in a really, really good position. They'll stay up in this division and they'll stay competitive. But now the question is, can Matthew Stafford really produce in this organization? Coming up next, we got a lot of things really to cover. We got a lot more NFL talk. We got a lot more going around. And I'm going to be talking at least a little bit about some hockey and talking about some baseball, because we are right around the corner when it comes to postseason baseball. And you know how much I love really, really good postseason action when it comes to baseball. So all of that coming up next. And of course, Coach Dante will be joining me here on the spot on the Snake Sports Talk Show on the Spotlight Sports Network. All right. So all of our fantasy competitors out there far and wide, coast to coast, you guys love fantasy sports and you guys also love winning cold hard cash. There's an app for that. And there's also a website to go to. It's called thrivefantasy.com. Week 1 action in NFL. This is the best time to get signed up, because there are pool plays that are going up that you can win up to $100,000 in week 1. There's a lot of different pool plays. It's so simple and easy. Download it on your mobile device through Google Play in the App Store, sign up online, and put in your $20 deposit. And when you do, when you sign up, use promo code SS Network. And Thrive Fantasy promises that they will match up to $50 into your first play. So it gives you more money and gives you more time to sign up for pool plays and win up to $100,000, especially in week 1 of the NFL. What are you guys waiting for? Definitely sign yourselves up on thrivefantasy.com, downloading it on the apps, and of course, signing up online. Promo code SS Network is the code. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
But I know that's just in my mind. I know everything is just in my mind. Do you really want to be famous? Do you really want to be a superstar? Do you really want to get dangerous? Do you even know where the groupies are? Bitches out here be-
Welcome to Hammer's house. Welcome to the My City, My Game pod show featuring Raider J77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.
Once a Raider, bruh, always a Raider, bruh. Shit simple as that. You look silver and black. Lot of bread invested in that O-line. Car insurance costs the arm and the leg to reach that goal line. It's go time.
So like I mentioned before, folks, because there are some hot cooking deals right now online at the spotlightsportsnetwork.com when it comes to merchandises. If you guys need to end up getting your stuff today, repping up for the network and repping up for your favorite shows up on the network, go to spotlightsportsnetwork.com. Powered by Spreadshirt. When you go to the merchandise section, there's a lot of cool stuff. I got myself a t-shirt. Might end up getting some hoodies for the winter time. I know that's going to be something I'll be bundled up for. You know, I'm that type of person that I'm just like, I live in a desert. It gets hot, it gets sweaty, and it's just terrible. But I'm ready for that sweater weather. I'm ready for the cold. I'm ready for, something to at least refresh me, because this has been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and look, let's be honest. I see smoke in the air almost every day because California is always on fire. That's nothing new. There's always some sort of fire that seems to be going on in one of the parks or one of the places. And it gets aggravating and excruciating. But sometimes those are just some of those things that you look at when you're in the desert. It happens. So Coach Dante is going to be on the way here in just a moment, and we will have him coming on. We'll be talking some Houston sports here while we're on this subject. So this is interesting. We know the season's coming around the corner. There's a lot to talk about in the NFL. And NFL's king for this, because there's always stories. There's always something to talk about in the league. And we just now got news with Trevor Lawrence and with Teddy Bridgewater being starting quarterbacks for week 1. So I've got one team really to think of. And this is going to be a very interesting year. But the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be one of those question mark years of how are they going to perform? Drew Brees is retired. And the only two options that the Saints and Sean Payton have are Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Let me be mindful of something here. Because Taysom Hill, we know he's a really good kid. And we know he has an arm. But people are going to figure him out. They're going to figure him out very, very quickly. And it's not a knock on Taysom Hill. I think he's a hell of an athlete. But he plays so many different positions. What's also interesting about this whole thing, about this quarterback battle, you're also talking about Jameis Winston, who had been in the league for a long time, but yet had been in an organization where they were just loose. Okay, Tampa was just loose. This was a franchise with Bruce Arians, who's about risk it, no risk it, no biscuit type of thing. Let it rip. And Jameis, who was a raw, talented quarterback who has an arm, just didn't have the direction. And a lot of people had a lot of criticisms about Jameis. But let me tell you this. The Saints, and you know where I marked them earlier. I had them marked down 3rd in the South. The reason of this is because I do think that the process for Sean Payton is going to be something very interesting. And mind you, I don't think Sean Payton's going to coach for long, respectfully. But in the meantime, you're working on something special. Jameis came into this New Orleans system, learning from Drew Brees and learning from Sean Payton. And there's finally going to be some sort of direction for him, a positive upside. This is someone who came out of a year where he threw 30 touchdowns, 30 picks. Not a really good resume to put. But Jameis had a lot of different things worked on. He had LASIK surgery. That's going to be a difference maker. And also had to work a lot more on his game. And I do think that if you put Jameis Winston as the starter, here's the other issue. Who's he going to throw to majority of the time outside of Michael Thomas? Because now Michael Thomas is hurt. And who knows what's going to happen with him. I don't see a single trustworthy wide receiver that's on this roster. I really don't. The only one that you're really going to utilize an awful lot is Alvin Kamara. That's the only guy that you could really be trustworthy when it comes to just pass-catching players. And so it's interesting. I look at this whole scenario in New Orleans, and this is why I said what I said when it came to the ranks. Because New Orleans is going to have one of those interesting years. It's a question mark in front of it, and you just don't know how they're going to really produce. It'll be weird to say the least, but who knows? I don't know what may happen throughout the year, but I'm very interested in seeing what New Orleans will do by this next season, and if Jameis can really make the cuts. Time now for the hot press. All right, so the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is an interesting one. So this weekend, Dwayne Haskins is going to be nabbed the starter here on Friday in the last preseason game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopes to solidify a spot on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. For the first time since imploding against the Carolina Panthers in Week 16 of the 2020 season, Dwayne Haskins will start a football game. Mike Tomlin said this. He said, "I'm excited about giving him an opportunity to see some reps against Carolina's first group. So, look, I felt like Dwayne Haskins, he's got talent. He's got an arm. And like we said about Jameis Winston earlier and a lot of these other quarterbacks, you need to have a better direction. I understand Washington was not like that. And then things changed the second Ron Rivera arrived. But even Dwayne Haskins had baggage of his own. It was maturity issues. There were a lot of things that, just never added up. It never made sense. So I felt like having a different direction. And let me just say this. Mike Tomlin he's pro player, loves his players, and is willing to make adjustments with his players to win games. And I think Pittsburgh's always been that type of organization. So I think Dwayne Haskins and learning with Mike Tomlin was maybe the best thing that happened. And it's safe to say the least. But Dwayne Haskins really needs to redeem himself. Now, who knows what the future holds for Pittsburgh? Because right now, you are kind of in a position with Big Ben that you don't know what you're going to get out of him. And so let's see what, this preseason game is really going to be. So I think this will be interesting to say the least. But hopefully some positive things for Dwayne Haskins. All right. So, this is terrible, but hopefully, thoughts and prayers for this. So defensive end, Vinny Curry, for the New York Jets, he's going to miss the season due to complications stemming from rare blood disorder. Was diagnosed last month with a rare blood disorder that required the removal of his spleen and triggered complications that will cause him to miss the entire season. Curry did, in fact, post on on his Instagram. He was a starter on the Philadelphia Eagles 2017 Super Bowl roster and was projected to return in the middle of September, but he explained that the blood clots formed and forced him to go on blood thinners. So it prevented him from having physical contact for about 3 to 6 months. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. But this is what was said from here. In July, the Jets doctors diagnosed me with a rare blood disorder. The diagnosis required the removal of my spleen and projecting me to return to the field in the middle of September. During my recovery, blood clots formed and forced me to go on blood thinners, preventing me from having physical contact for the next 3-6 months. While I am incredibly disappointed that I will not be able to play with my teammates this year, I am thankful that the doctors identified my condition in time. They have informed me that I am expected to make a full recovery and return to the field next season. I'm so grateful to all those who have reached out to me on the phone, through social media, and in person. I can promise them all that I will be back stronger and more determined than ever. I mean, this is you never wish something like this upon anybody. And so thoughts and prayers to Vinny Curry for a very speedy recovery. I mean, that is tough. That is absolutely tough. And you're talking about a Jets team that's been having injuries after injuries after injuries, and it's just it's a terrible look, but I'm absolutely hoping the best for him. Thoughts and prayers for Vinny Curry, and hopefully that the process goes through smoothly. So Kyle Shanahan right now, and this has been the interesting hot topic. So Kyle Shanahan makes things interesting. So he has not named the starting quarterback for week 1, but has a pretty good idea. So prior to the opening of training camp, he made it known that there was no open quarterback competition. With the onset of the regular season drawing near, Shanahan isn't offering up the same clarity as it relates to the starting quarterback spot. So there is no identification whatsoever as far as, is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it going to be Trey Lance? I've said this before. Start Jimmy Garoppolo now. And the only reason of this is because I feel like you could get some trade value with Jimmy G. And until the time is right, when Trey Lance has studied the playbook, he's learned the playbook, he's gotten better with it, and he's taken first-team reps, then you can then pass the torch down to Trey Lance to being the starting quarterback. But I'd say it for argument's sake, I know what people feel about the injuries about Jimmy G, but I feel like he will be the starter. I mean, he's got to be. The funny thing of it is, he could be injured, but he does win games. That's an argument breaker. He wins games. So win at least a couple games until Trey's ready. And that way, then it could boost up his trade stocks and so much more. So I don't think that this is really, a coincidence. I really do think that Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starter of the San Francisco 49ers come week 1. And it's only a matter of time until Trey Lance is ready. All right, so that was your hot press, folks. Man, oh man, there was just an awful lot of just NFL news, information, lots of things that were kind of, there was a lot of things that were just kind of springing back and forth. But man, I am super excited. I cannot wait for the season itself to start. And it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting about this whole scenario when it comes to quarterbacks. I don't know why. But speaking of all these quarterbacks and stuff like this, because first of all, you're talking about a few divisions. Like, first of all, NFC West is still competitive, and the Rams knew it. The Rams knew it that they were in trouble the second Cam Akers goes down with a season-ending injury, and they had to get somebody. And Sony Michel, let's be honest, he was injured majority of the time in New England. So I feel like having a new place is a new refresher for him. And running backs really don't stay that long in New England, as I've said early in the segment. 1 to 3 years is like my minimum. That's all New England does. But we talked about now with Trevor Lawrence being the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, I don't even know what's going to be happening up in Houston, honestly. But there's nobody better that can explain about all Houston sports than our very own Coach Dante. He just joined aboard with the Spotlight Sports Network, and right now he is joining me now via the Global Satellite Network presented by StreamYard here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So you got to give our fans here and our viewers a little taste of something of why they call you Coach Dante. Let's let our viewers and listeners get a scoop in of why that is.
First of all, man, I just want to say thank you for inviting me, from having me as your first, welcome me into the Spotlight Sports Network family, and everybody else, man. I appreciate you guys for the offer and the partnership, and I can't wait to work, man, with you. Keep working with each and every one of you guys. First of all, I came up my good friend Raven came up with the name Coach Dante because my name ain't Coach Dante for no reason. I'm actually a real life coach. I coach a flag football team, and I coach a basketball team, a 10-year-old basketball team. So I'm actually a legit coach in real life. So like I say, man, I just love to help out people, help out guys. And I coach 4, 5, and 6-year-olds and stuff like that. And it's just been a blessing. So that's how I come up with the name Coach Dante.
There you go. You know what I mean? You're coaching up to build a winning team, and that's what we're all about here on the Spotlight Sports Network. You know what I mean? We love to make a winning team. So it's such a blessing to have you aboard, and I can't wait to work more with you. Oh, yeah. So let's talk. Let's get into the heap of things. So, obviously, Houston Texans, AFC South. We just got news of Trevor Lawrence being the number 1 starter. But before we talk more about Trevor Lawrence, we got to figure out what's going on with the Houston Texans. Now, there's been so many news. It's been all over the place for the last couple months about Deshaun Watson, about, the ownership, general managing, and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. I felt like Houston was in a position that the Colts were in the second they got Andrew Luck. Yeah. They didn't build a whole lot of offensive line and security around him, but still managed to go 11-5 in consecutive years. But the other part is that after all the hits and injuries is what forced up retirement. So Deshaun you already know the case that he's come off an ACL injury. He's getting hit 200 times a season. And so there's not, outside of Laramie Tunsil, there's no trust on this line. And worst of all, you trade away your best wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. So aside from all these cases that's happening personally, what seems to be the inside scoop of what the Texans are going to do this season? Because I'm looking at everything and I'm like, this has turned into a complete dumpster fire. And then a team that really I didn't look at this way. But give me your thoughts of what this season's going to look like for the Texans.
First of all, man, like I say again, you can argue, like I say before we lost in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs, we was emerging as the third best team. New England was reeling. Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay. Imagine if they keep DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson won't have these problems pretty much. We probably the second best team in this AFC conference besides the Ravens, the Browns emerging. And when DeAndre Hopkins left the squad, you can tell it didn't tell about a play of Deshaun Watson because he still had a great season, 33-7, MVP type numbers. Just you can't win too many games when your defense is 29th in the league. You're not going to win any football games.
That's true.
It's not like the offense didn't compete because we averaged 24 points per game. So that means we were scoring in a pretty good rate. The defense just couldn't get off the field. Every game, if you look at every game last year when the Texans played, we lost by one possession almost every single game. The fumble, but the two fumbles against the Indianapolis Colts, the defensive massacre against the Tennessee Titans two times in a row. That's 10 wins right there. So again, this turned into a dumpster fire. And I also blame this on Bill O'Brien as well. I also said I'm okay with him being a head coach, but not a GM and an offensive play caller. Because he was atrocious when he had the offensive play calls. He was damn near atrocious. He made me sick. Like I say, when I watched him call plays. So other than that, don't expect much this year from the Texans. I just don't think we'll be bad as everybody make it seem. But like I say, I won't be surprised because we don't have I don't. Besides Brandon Cooks, I don't see a weapon that we pretty much got. You can say Nico Collins is okay in training camp. You can say Phillip Lindsay when he's healthy. He's a pretty good, pretty decent back when he's healthy. Out there, the offensive line can't block nobody. Besides, and we just added Marcus Cannon, the offensive line, but he's hurt. He's not out there. The tight end Brevin Jordan, I don't know how is he gonna look, but so we got so many question marks. Even on the defensive side of the ball, we playing great defense preseason, but even on the defensive side of the ball, we got so many question marks. The secondary is not good. The defensive line is okay; they compete, but the secondary is not good. And when you're not getting any pressure on the quarterback, that makes it rough on your secondary. So, like I said again, I'm not expecting much for the Houston Texans. I can see Davis Mills playing this year, definitely playing this year. I can see that, but it's not looking good for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, and and it's so funny that you brought that up because I agree with you there. And because my thought was, and you're absolutely right, this is going to be an interesting year now because now J.J. Watt is an Arizona Cardinal. You're not going to have a whole lot of pressure on that D line to get into the opposing offenses. And I've always said this for years. This could be a much better defense because I remembered it being with Brian Cushing. You had one other linebacker as well that I thought was very talented, but it was always the secondaries that was the problem. And you're talking about talking about a division that likes to throw the football. Now, the Titans may be different because of the fact of with Derrick Henry, but they still would like to throw the football to some of their star wide receivers. But the Indianapolis
Colts had probably the top running game in the league as well last year.
Yeah.
So they did run the ball pretty effectively too with Jonathan Taylor, Mack, and Naheem Hines. They have an awesome offensive line as well. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. So they was up in the top of the league in rushing too. But I definitely agree with you, man.
Yeah. And so, and this was kind of something that for years, I've never seen the Houston Texans at a point where they were at a come up that they looked like they were going to be that type of competitive team. Because I remember watching them when they had Matt Schaub Andre Johnson, and they had like this was actually looking to be an interesting team. Now they just become their irrelevant selves again, and I don't understand this. But let me ask a serious question.
Okay.
Because I think this might, it's a question mark for everybody. But when the season starts, who for sure is your starting quarterback? Will Deshaun play?
No, I don't think he would.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he will. I think Tyrod Taylor is your week 1 quarterback. I don't see Deshaun Watson playing. I don't see him playing, especially for the Houston Texans. I heard some rumors that he was working out at a separate field or something like that. But I expect going into week 1 with no preseason snaps for Deshaun Watson and everything, or being behind an offensive line to adjust to everything and not being able to throw the receivers. I don't expect to see Deshaun Watson week 1. I expect Tyrod to be on the center against Jacksonville. And by the way, you brought up an interesting point too, which is like I said, I want to bring something to your knowledge too as well. Gary Kubiak and Matt Schaub that year. Gary Kubiak broke Matt Schaub. That game against Seattle when he did that bootleg and he threw the ball and Richard Sherman catches it right there, and all you had to do was give it to a hot Arian Foster, and Richard Sherman runs a touchdown all the way back. That pretty much broke Matt Schaub's confidence a little bit, and you can see him rattle because the next game you go to Candlestick Park, he throws 6 interceptions in a row, which resulted into 6 pick sixes. So that Gary Kubiak kind of broke Matt Schaub's confidence really right there. So I got to blame Gary Kubiak on that part of things. But you did bring up an interesting point that slipped my mind up on that play. I just had to bring that up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what? I'm actually glad that you brought that up because, I mean, I remember the time when Gary Kubiak and even those plays, and it's, God, you look back at it and you're just like, what, why? And what could have been? But, sometimes not always guaranteeable, but at the same time, I mean, it could have gone better if not different had that not happened, because then again you're looking at you had to go through like TJ Yates and a lot of these oh man, I just
Brian Hoyer, Brock Osweiler, the worst quarter. I call him,
and not to mention Sage Rosenfeld at the time. Oh my god!
Yeah, did you bring that up on me? Huh?
Coach Dante joining me here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So let's stay within your division. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Trevor Lawrence, it's been announced, it's official. The Trevor Lawrence era has begun. He's now the week 1 starter against the Houston Texans for the Jags. And I said this earlier up on my show because this is a good thing about Trevor Lawrence, but this also raises some questions about Gardner Minshew. So let's start with Trevor Lawrence. So after seeing everything, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been so excited to watch him since watching tape in high school, since watching college games and winning the national championship with Clemson and Dabo Swinney. I mean, the kid, I just said it. I was at a dinner. I was at dinner one time and I'm like, when are we going to see this kid make NFL snaps? For God's sakes, like he's ready for this. What's your evaluation on Trevor Lawrence going into this season? And I mean, with him and Urban Meyer, this is kind of going to be something cooking here, and this could be something that'll be interesting in that South. Your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence?
I like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, seeing him in college, winning national championship, tearing up, probably the best defense in the country. The way he shredded them guys with T. Higgins and stuff. This guy's a future stud in this league, man. He's very tall. He throws with accuracy. He can run when he needs to run up out of the pocket. He's a leader. And like I say, I'm with Urban Meyer as a coach that won national championships as well. That's a good fit. But I see Trevor Lawrence having a decent season, man. Like I say, every rookie gonna go through growing pains. You gotta expect them to go through growing pains. And I expect them. I'm excited to see Trevor Lawrence week 1 and see where these guys coming. But I mean, it can go great for him. Also go great for him week 1 because he got this Texans defense. But like I said again, I see Trevor Lawrence as an exciting quarterback. He's been very good in preseason. He showed me a lot. And hey, Gardner Minshew, I feel bad for him because, like I said again, when Gardner Minshew was in the lineup, he actually competed. Like I said again, you don't got an offensive line. You don't have no go-to receiver to throw to. So hey, Gardner Minshew was it? I believe with the right situation, Gardner Minshew could be a, he showed signs and presence of being a pretty decent quarterback.
Oh yeah, and that's what led me to like my next thing, because so for Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I'm excited for this season, and I said this in the beginning segment, is give this puppy 2-3 years, because what Urban Meyer's trying to do is he's working it this way. He's developing the offense first, and then the defense is going to follow after, because you know, you're talking about all these big time defensive players. They're all gone since 2017. So they're trying to kind of pick up the mess that they lost. But at the same time, it is a year's pact where you got 2-3 years to make this thing happen, and then there'll be something interesting. And the only thing you hope is Jacksonville grooms this well, because they are going to be in a direction where it's going to be leading by example with Trevor Lawrence, and it's going to be winning you games, be better than what you were last year, but may not make a big jump right away. So
I see them competing as well. Because they got a pretty interesting team. If you look at their receiving core, it's pretty good. Marvin Jones, a possession receiver, who's a veteran. Keelan Cole. You got Laviska Shenault over there, who can make plays, and you got 1,000.
And DJ Chark.
You got DJ Chark. I forgot about him. You got 1,000-yard running back too, who burst on the scene as well. So you got some pieces over there to build around Trevor Lawrence to make him successful, and a great head coach in Urban Meyer that hold guys accountable and stuff, that knows what winning is, that knows how to win. So I can see Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence having a great future and competing this season.
Yeah, and no spoiler alert for all of our fantasy football guys up out there, but you get yourselves Trevor Lawrence. I feel like you're going to get bigger numbers out of Laviska Shenault. I'm putting my 2 cents in there. I think he's gonna have. I think he's gonna have a lot more targets. I think he's gonna, he's really gonna make an impact with this, and I think it's gonna be a fun offense. But to point out about Gardner Minshew, I said this after the news itself. I think if there is no guarantee of Gardner Minshew even coming in at all in this in this system, then there's 3 destinations, and you could kind of take it however you want to, but there's 3 destinations that I thought could be an ideal fit for someone like Gardner Minshew. One that I really think is the hot one, and I think it works perfectly, is the Washington football team. Look, you have a competent head coach with Ron Rivera, who is only man in the defense. He's an alpha male coach, and he's also someone that's going to give Gardner Minshew confidence, because let's be honest, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's bounced around from so many places, but he's always had the resume of being a good quarterback in week 1, but it's the down the stretch thing that concerns me. And Taylor Heineke, I don't even know if he's going to implement the same thing he did in the playoffs. That's kind of a risky dice you're throwing there. But I feel like, and look, there's a lot of offensive pieces for Washington. Cam Sims, Terry McLaurin, and Antonio Gibson, and J.D. McKissick. So I feel like he could really fit in this. My other 2 is the Colts, if they really want to, but I doubt it. I kind of throw it in as like a little like sneaky kind of move. And then finally, the Dallas Cowboys, because let's be honest, these backups for Dak is just terrible. It's not giving you any insurance. So if Dak gets hurt again, the Cowboys are out of the playoffs, because they showed you last year they can't win without Dak. But if you put Gardner Minshew in this, I feel like this is almost like a Medicaid insurance. This is where you break a leg, you break an arm, or something like that. You're only paying for the copay to go in, but at least you've got or even in an accident, however way you look at it, you've got a good car insurance. They're going to give you a good rental, a rental that's going to get you from A to B. I feel like that's what Gardner Minshew may do for Dallas. Your thoughts?
I agree with you on the Washington football team. I got some couple more honorable mentions of teams that I think he will be okay with and fit in with. But I definitely agree with you on Washington, because they're one quarterback away with that defensive line, that scary defensive line. I don't know. I don't got a good aspect of the secondary, because I'm always seeing the defensive line getting consistent pressure over there. So I'm not too sold on. I got to see a little bit more of that secondary play. They just one quarterback. They grabbed up Samuel, I believe, from Curtis Samuel.
Yep, Curtis Samuel. Yep.
They grabbed him up, and Sims and McLaurin, who's turned into one of these good young stud receivers. And I want to go. I was gonna pick the Eagles because they got Joe Flacco, but oh my God, Nick Mullins, man, God, he stinks. Nick Mullins, man, he just
and you gotta think of a Nick Mullins who comes from San Francisco with a Kyle Shanahan offense, and it's like, wow, that like this is the Nick Mullins now that you're getting in Philly.
Man,
but that's interesting.
He stinks, and I don't know who the Giants' backup quarterback is as well. Besides Daniel Jones, I don't have faith in. I felt
like it was Colt McCoy, but I don't even know now. Yeah.
So that's the honorable mention. Yeah, that's the honorable mention of plays. I don't know how long Daniel Jones will have because it seemed like all this. He had one good season and he's regressed. He hasn't. 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Yep. Terrible season. You got to get better at some point. And
not to mention he's got no stickum to keep the football in his hands.
Yes,
he's been coughing it up all year long.
Yeah, those are the three. Those are the two teams I want to throw in now as well. That I feel like that would be a great destination for Gardner Minshew because like when the guy has weapons, the guy can actually produce. The problem is. He didn't have nothing over there in Jacksonville. He didn't have an offensive line. Yeah. He pretty much didn't. All he had was a pretty decent running game. He had no offensive line and no receivers to work with. So if you can get his guy some weapons around him, he can make plays and he also can move pretty well out of the pocket.
Yeah, and worst of all, I mean, you also talk about a defense that just completely imploded with Jalen Ramsey to the Rams, Yannick Ngakoue to the Raiders, and then you had Calais Campbell who left. So AJ Bouye, everybody on that 2017 roster just exploded. Everybody went elsewhere. So it was kind of hard to really, repair from that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, a reliable offensive line is what he needs. And that's actually really interesting that you brought up the Giants, though, because my thought was this is a do or die season for Daniel Jones. They didn't make these moves for no reason. They're telling you saying you either produce or you're out. Because that means no coughing up the football no more, no tripping on the field when nobody's around you, and and all this stuff. So, so I feel like this is kind of the boot that Joe Judge is sending to Daniel Jones, and could he succeed? Who knows? But the Eagles is interesting. But again, this is a year for the Eagles that they got to clean up this mess. Yeah, I mean this was a mess that after the Super Bowl run they'd never really repaired. Now, is it because there was an injury plague, or is this just kind of front office stuff? Who knows what it may be? But we saw the truths with Doug Peterson. We saw the truths with Howie Roseman. So this is kind of like a hot seat moment right now that they have to make this work. And you're in a division that's not really looked that way. Yeah. I mean, this is a division that has to get better. I mean, look, divisions like the NFC and AFC West, that's competitive. And a lot of these other ones. Yeah. And the NFC East for the last few years is like a participation trophy that thank you for playing our division. You're going to get hit out of the playoffs and you're done. That's just, I hope for better.
I agree with you on everything about that too. The Cowboys got the best talent in this NFC East division.
Yeah.
For 10 straight years, they've been having the best talent in 26 years. And they have not come away with a division championship.
They've only won 3 playoff games in 25 years. Like
that is a long time. That is a very long time. And Michael Gallup, they don't know if they're gonna pay him next year. He's up for a new contract, so I don't see them kind of retaining him a little bit. But I mean,
there's your reason to having CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, like I say again, you got too much talent. I mean, not to be winning this division. I mean, but I can't put my trust in the Dallas Cowboys because
neither can I.
Whether it's in the locker room or anything, someone going to the store stealing something, or the coaching staff, it's gonna always be some adversity with this team that's gonna stop them from competing on that football field. It's gonna always be some adversity.
You know what's funny about the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm gonna say this on the air, but the Dallas Cowboys have turned into the softest team in the NFL. They are so soft. Like, you know what? I heard this on the radio. They are like the trust fund kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Like they get paid all this money for average players. And, I mean, my God, they're playing on a freaking, like, one of those country clubhouses for practice and all this other stuff. And you're on Hard Knocks. So it's like television has to be everywhere. You got to have all this other stuff. They are so soft. Like, here's the funny thing. Like, hopefully this analogy works. I've been thinking about this all day. But the Dallas Cowboys are like a cat who's got a castle, as a house. So they got the houses. Well, let's be honest. A dog just has a bed. The Dallas Cowboys are not dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you who are dogs. Baltimore, those are dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders, those are dogs. A lot of these teams here that they got that grit grinding feeling. Those are the guys that are going to be stomping your face.
Mm-hmm.
They're dogs.
Yeah.
I don't see 1 inch of dog in the Cowboys. I feel like they're the soft cats that just have the tallest castle in the house, and that they're just going to be, sleeping in there while the dog's just sleeping on a normal bed or just sleeping on the floor. You know what I mean? And they always get stronger.
Again, last year, you heard a lot of reports last year with the Dallas Cowboys of guys going behind the coach's back. Speaking of what you said about they don't like this play, they don't like that. How about go tell the coach what you don't like? Y'all go talk. Y'all gonna talk behind it. That's why Dak Prescott was the emotional leader of this team. You can see how very much they imploded after he lost. After they lost Dak Prescott.
They couldn't win really without him.
They had no leadership in the locker room after Dak Prescott, and that's the point of what you said.
And what was the initial moment? I cannot remember exactly the week game, but it was when a fight broke out after a play. One of the players got tackled, and the offensive lineman just stood there.
Yeah.
Like, that spoke volumes. Yeah. Like, that is where I made the initiative. They are the softest team in the NFL.
Yeah.
They don't back up their players. They have no leadership in that locker room outside of Dak. Like, that's like, to me, stick up for your players.
The prime example, Andy Dalton.
Yes.
How can you let him get hit like that and nobody step in front of it? How can you allow him now?
And then you just leave him there on the ground.
You just leave him there laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Like he just not like he's not anything. He's your quarterback. You're supposed to step up and defend your quarterback. If you see your quarterback slide and get hit like that, and he get hit head first, and everybody just standing around looking. Right. Nobody attempts to go at the guy. Nobody attempts to go check on him. Everybody's just looking around.
Yeah, just like I'm not sure what happened up over there. Like, so, oh man, Coach Dante here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So let's shift our focus a little bit on Houston. So let's talk about, the Houston Rockets for a second, because you know what? I look at this franchise, and you could agree to disagree, however way, but the Houston Rockets were in a position that they were a Chris Paul injury away from being in the finals. You look at from that group before with James Harden and the rest of them, and they needed vocal leadership because somebody needed to straighten up James Harden, and you had Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker and Clint Capella, which I love the kid. And there was so many really good things, even in the front office, that they said about him. And now he's gone. The second they go and get Russell Westbrook, and because they needed to make that trade because they needed to hold that contract. It's the unfortunate thing. Yeah. But you look at where they are now, and I said this was kind of a rude awakening for the Houston Rockets in the first place, because they gave up on a process that they were so close on an injury that they could have beaten Golden State. Yeah. If they beat them, they would have went to the finals. Yeah. And they probably would have gotten a championship by then. So looking at this, this is going to be a longer stretched process, but you look at everybody in the old teams. PJ Tucker now has won a championship with the Bucks. Clint Capella made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Hawks, and James Harden, I mean, he's on a best offensive scoring team with the Brooklyn Nets. So is this kind of was this kind of a rude awakening already for the Houston Rockets? I kind of felt like it was the second Daryl Morey left and all this other stuff. is there something that the Rockets could have done better that would have never put them in this position?
Yeah. I got to go get my charger right quick. I have to come back and answer that question because I don't want my laptop to die.
Oh, yeah. No,
let me go
no
get my
worries.
charger. I got to
Alrighty,
go get
no
the
problem.
charger right quick.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll hold that thought there for Coach Dante. But yeah, that's God, that's really interesting. I cannot believe I didn't think about that. Gardner Minshew to the Giants. This is actually, I think I'm starting to come around with that because it is a do or die season for Daniel Jones, and whatever happens this season, I'm very interested to see how this plays out, whether it's good or bad. But at the same time, like, they have some offensive pieces. You can't deny it. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. Like there are a bunch of really good pieces in this Giants roster. And not to mention, because this is also pushing Evan Ingram. They went and got Kyle Rudolph to being that red zone type tight end. So Joe Judge is going to have a lot of fun with this. But wow, I would have never thought about that. That's actually, man, that now makes me change my point about I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the Colts out and I'm going to put the Giants in. That really did refresh my mind. But yeah, the Washington football team, I think, really is ideal for Gardner Minshew. So, all right, so he's back on. All righty, man. So let's go ahead and talk about those Rockets.
First of all, again, I'm thinking, like I say, the reason why I'll say Chris Paul, we one injury away from the finals, which is, I believe, we would beat Cleveland. But we had Chris Paul healthy. But again, we gotta look at the game 7. And when I look at the series, I look at the Rockets. You outplayed Golden State in every single ball game, basically, in that series. The way you look at it.
Yeah.
Game 6, halftime, you were up by 10. Golden State self-destruct on you and end up blowing us out. Game 7, we up by 20 at halftime. But I got to give credit to Steve Kerr because he took the lane from James Harden. Mm-hmm. And James Harden had the pass.
Yep.
And we missed 27 straight 3-pointers, which is unacceptable. I understand we didn't have Chris Paul, but you can't miss 27 straight 3-pointers in the game. You can't do that and only lose by single digits.
Especially against a team that knows how to shoot threes.
That knows how to shoot threes, and they got a Kevin, and they don't have a Kevin Durant. They do have a Klay Thompson, but you got to find a way to knock some of those threes, knock those wide open threes down when you need them to make it.
And it's funny because you look at James Harden, and I said this before, is that when you put pressure on James Harden, he crumbles. Like he shakes. And that's kind of something that, was the key factor for Golden State in that game. Because, initially I said it before, without Chris Paul in that lineup, that means James Harden now has to put the team on his shoulders. And we saw this now. Like, he's not willing to be that type of leader. He's not going to be that type of guy that you're going to rely on to make those shots, open lanes for a lot of people. Like, that was kind of the unfortunate case with Houston at that point, because I was really rooting for it. But yeah, that was such a terrible performance with that many straight shots of threes. Yeah. You have got to make those shots big time.
Well, like, that's what I'm saying. To my point, I can't really, if James Harden going to the basket and dishing out and they're wide open, you got to get them. So I can't hold James Harden to the fault of that accountability from finding a teammate wide open every time. And you're just not making shots. But what I will blame on James Harden is the San Antonio series that we lost, where he went when he definitely played like shit in that San Antonio game 6. He definitely did that. I will blame that on him. And the first Western Conference Finals when we went to when we had Dwight Howard, I definitely will blame those 2 series on him. But any other series, I wouldn't kind of hold him accountable with. He kind of last year, I mean, against with Russell Westbrook, I thought the Rockets brought him back too early. I just thought he was still hurt. I didn't think he was still the same Russ. He couldn't shoot the ball to save his life. James Harden still played great. But the problem is Russell Westbrook, you just double James Harden. Can you rely on Russell Westbrook to make open shots? And that's what seemed like
and
the Lakers. Go ahead.
Think about this. I mean, Clint Capella.
Mm-hmm.
The second that he gets traded, I said, "Oh no, this is a curse.
Yeah.
This is an implosion waiting to happen because now you're without your backboard defender and without someone who's going to give you second chance shots. Even if James Harden cannot make the threes, you got somebody that's going to rebound it and put it back in the basket. And the second you now rely on Robert Covington, like now it's like I looked at this whole team. There's not one tall guy that I could even rely on. It's like like a whole entire court full of Smurfs. And I was like, oh man, this is not gonna. This is not gonna.
That's the problem. Like I was one of the guys that I said, okay, I'm okay with small ball, but the only reason you're okay with it because you got the floor spacing for James Harden and Russell Westbrook. When Russell Westbrook was healthy, he can get to the game. He can get to the bucket anytime he wanted to, and he played like an MVP candidate before the season shut down. But if you're not making those shots and you're struggling making them, the team like the Lakers that are bigger than you, they're going to pound you inside.
Yeah.
Every time you don't make an open 3-point shot, they're going to pound you inside. Yeah. They're going to use their strength advantage. Yeah. But when you're making shots, you're putting pressure on them. You can give if you're making them, you can make them adjust. They can't beat you with twos. They can't beat you with twos if you're making threes.
I'll give you a perfect example is like because you saw Russell Westbrook when it came to 3-point efficiencies. Yeah. He cannot shoot threes. But I do make one point. Like, take out Westbrook and let's say we put in hypothetically Kawhi Leonard, which Kawhi is not a vocal leader, but he is a guy that I think you could put in. If I need a bucket, he's gonna be the guy that's gonna give you a bucket. Yeah. Regardless if it's a three, but if you're tearing it up from the perimeter, that's more than enough because you're still piling on piling on the pressure, and also that's giving you better chances on defense now to shake up the opposing offense on the floor and giving you those opportunities to get the ball back and get more rebounds. Yeah, exactly. If you have Kawhi Leonard on the same team as James Harden with the Rockets, just like you said, I definitely agree. Rockets will be more dangerous, but I'll say again, Clint Capella, I love this guy so much, man. Yeah. This guy was a favorite Rocket of mine, and like I say again, he was very good, very great rim protector. He also can switch on defenders as well, man. And the funny thing, the first time I ever knew about Clint Capella, and you probably would love this, but the regular season game against Cleveland and against LeBron, you probably remember this well. It was a complete mess getting the basketball all around the court because everybody's falling on the court like there was too much wax on it, and then finally slams it down. But the most iconic moment in that game was when LeBron James was ready to just slam it down, and Clint Capella said, "Not in my house." Yeah. That was where I first looked. I said, who the hell is this kid? Like, this kid, like, it really means a lot when you're stopping the king. Like, when you're stopping LeBron James, you caught my full attention. I'm like, that kid's going to be good. Yeah. Like, that kid, don't you dare let him go. That is your guy that is going to give you the important shots. He's a backboard defender, and he's going to give you important rebounds. And that's where the second the trade happened, I said this, bad for Houston, great for Atlanta, because you're in a similar position. You've got Trae Young, who's going to be shooting a lot of threes and tearing up the perimeter. And you got Clint Capella, who's going to defend and give you second chance shots. And that's where you saw that the second they went to the Eastern Conference Final.
You got a great team over there too, man. You got what's that guy named Kevin Huerter, who can shoot
Cam Reddish.
Good. Cam Reddish when he's on the court. Yep. And you also, like I say, you got Gallinari.
And DeAndre Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter, Gallinari, who gets leadership in that locker room as well, man. You got some pieces. You got some pretty
and
good
add in
pieces.
Lou Williams for a
Add
little
in
bit of
Lou
versatility.
Williams, and then you signed John Collins back as well. So you keep Trey Young and John Collins back. So you can look for this team to be something special again next year. Can be probably in a third seed in the Eastern Conference if everything breaks right. With Clint Capella coming along, being one of the best centers, most underrated centers in the game. You got Trey Young, who had a big playoffs and a big season. I mean, this young Hawks team is coming, man.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is, so of the 4 teams that were in the conference finals, like the first thing I said was, like, don't get me wrong, this was going to be really good for all 4 teams because that was going to make it competitive. But this was going to be really bad for only one specific team in particular because they had all these guys. And it's like, and now it just gave you your open reality. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, like now it's like, to me, it takes, and honestly, I give you props. It takes guts to be a Houston fan. Yeah. Because, and it's actually, I'm actually really happy that you joined the network, but at the same time, finding someone who on the insides has this scoop on stuff and could relate to all of just the internal problems that they just had.
Hey man, I've been a Houston fan for 31 years of my life, man. Like I say, man, we had some bad years and some great years, but the only good in Houston is the Astros right now. That's the best team.
And that's going to bring my one point because, I mean, my thing of it is, like, I'm not gonna speak it on the air, but I do have my personal opinions about the Houston Astros because to me, like, this is still a really good team. It still is. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Yordan Alvarez, and even the pitching staff. Yuli Gurriel and so many of these guys. They still will be a problem in the AL West. And and everything else. But my thing with the Houston Astros is like, and maybe just for the whole city of Houston, I mean, you've got obviously all of the rap with the Texans, terrible as it sounds, but DeAndre gone, JJ Watt gone, Deshaun's a question mark. It's like they've become a dumpster fire. The Houston Rockets had all these guys, and all of them now have gone their separate ways, and they all represented in the conference finals, whether East or West. And it just makes them feel really bad. And now it just brings a bad rap for the Rockets. The Houston Astros, first of all, when I looked at this team initially, I thought this was going to be a really good competitive team. I thought they had a lot of really good potentials. But then the 2017 scandal and all this other stuff. And it's like, I've always said teams have done this before. This is not a coincidence, but when a team gets caught, I mean, my 3rd episode when I was, before I got into live streaming and I was doing just regular podcasting, I ripped a new one on the Astros. And the only reason was because, first of all, I was disappointed in the PR because you usually when you get caught, this is where in life, you get caught with something that holds a consequence to your life. It's what separates the men from the boys. You either own up to the consequences, do the times or whatnot, and shape your focus rather than just blanket it and felt like it never happened. And I felt like the Astros did something like that because one, Jim Crane, the way he explained it, I thought was a bad rap for the Houston Astros. I thought what Jose Altuve said was a bad rap for him, and the list itself goes on. But the only person I felt like, and maybe you might agree, but AJ Hinch, the fact that he was the only person who came out of this whole scandal and explained it to Tom Verducci and said, if I could go back in time and really work on this, because this is a family man. This is also someone who loves the game of baseball and was a former catcher and a really good manager. And he's got great things for him in Detroit. That you look at the team and it's like, can Houston just get a break? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, so from
Go
your
ahead.
feeling, being a fan of Houston for 30 years, is this like, how would you just describe like what it truly means being a Houston fan? Because I'm sure everyone here watching, listening could get a gist, could get a feeling and a vibe. Like, again, nothing within this, this room
Yeah.
whatsoever, like just true honesty. What is it like just being a fan itself? I mean, it's gotta be tough.
Yeah, it's like I say again. I mean, it's tough. Seeing your teams, seeing every team. Like I say, being great for a couple of for just not like a year ago, almost a year ago, being championship contenders, and now they completely fell apart in a cheating
Mhm.
scandal. I understand about that because, like I say, I would never know anything more because I'm not in the clubhouse with those guys. Like I
Mhm.
say again, but hey man, the commissioner didn't take this World Series so championship away, so we can kind of still call ourselves 2017 World Series champions, even
Mhm.
though, like I say again, they I'm not in the clubhouse, so I can't tell what happened, but it's kind of tough, man. Like I say, that's why I'm a Houston fan, Texan fan, and
Mhm.
like I say, it's like I say again, it's kind of like a coach. I mean, you gotta you gotta stay loyal to your craft, man. When everything go bad, I mean, like I said, I just love to support my guys. When everything go
Mhm.
bad, eventually, hey, you got to make some adjustments. You gotta make some adjustments to the franchise. And I say again, man, it's tough. It's very tough, man. See
Mhm.
these guys going out there losing games, and all I say, like I'll tell my guys when you get on that football field, we gonna lose. We gonna lose giving effort and having heart.
Mhm.
That's how we gonna lose. We're not gonna lose walking around giving up. And it's tough, man. It's tough. It's very tough. Um, uh, Car days was very tough. The car
Yep.
days was very tough when he was getting hit. When he
Oh
had that
yeah.
82 sack season, that was very tough. No offensive line whatsoever. The Houston Rocket games in the early 2000s with Steve Francis, we was getting first overall picks, and the
Oh
Houston
yeah.
Astros, man, and the Houston Astros before we won that World Series, man. You got to think about 2, 3 straight years of sucking 100 yard, 100 losses every single season, just like looking like the
Yeah.
76ers trust the process out there. That can be kind of stressful because like I say, man, I just love to support my team, man. That's just a diehard fan of me, and I understand to order to make things better and win championships, you gotta struggle along with your guys. You gotta take it. You gotta take the ass whooping on her ass. That's all you got to do, and everything should get better. I believe the Rockets got a direction to go with, got a direction to
Mhm.
go in. I don't know about the Houston Texans, but I believe in the Rockets and Jalen Green and all of those guys, Shane Gould and Josh Christopher. I believe the Rockets got a slight direction, a little bit, but
Mhm.
I don't know about the Texans, man. But like, it's tough, man. It's real tough. But hey, I'm willing. That's why I watch these podcasts and stuff like that. And when people say the Texans aren't good, hey, I can't be mad. I'm not surprised. I look
Mhm.
at the roster myself and stuff like that. So all we can do is get on that field, show people, and just overachieve. That's all I can hope for, man.
And I could tell you this, honestly, like even from a coach's perspective and even from a lot of these things that we evaluate, like that makes content.
Yeah,
That makes serious content.
yeah.
Like you don't really get a whole lot of stuff like that, but someone
Mm-hmm.
who being a fan for a long, long time, who's been through, the
Mm-hmm.
victories, the defeats, the struggles, and even some of like the best times where you're kind of in the hot seat. You got the hot hand. You guys are ready.
Yeah,
You're ready to go in and you're ready to dog it.
yeah.
And and ultimately that's the best feeling that you can get. And even
Mm-hmm.
when you know coaching football, coaching basketball, and no matter what coach you are, is it's always the same direction. You
Same
got to go
direction.
through the trenches. To me, I
Yep.
always had a saying, and this is probably the best saying in life. You got to walk through the valley to stand amongst the mountains.
Yep.
And this is where I feel like a lot of it when it comes to fans, when it comes to players, and when it comes to teams, everybody goes through their valleys. Everybody goes through their valleys until they stand atop the mountain as champions.
Yep.
And that's what I think is probably the best motivation and direction, for anybody, even from a coach's perspective. And I respect that. I
Yeah,
think that
man.
that makes great content, honestly. And you know what? I'll be honest. Like, for the Astros, the guys I loved watching was definitely Jeff Bagwell, Craig Biggio.
Oh yeah,
Like,
Craig
those were
Biggio,
such
yeah.
great guys. In fact, my mother tells me all the time, like, she's actually born and raised in Long Island, where Craig Biggio was originally from. You know, and
Yeah,
like, you know, it brings back a lot of, you know, really really good memories. But
it does, man.
you know,
Like I say, it
this
don't
was
get
really
that. You
good.
don't get no better than all those guys, like you said, Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell.
Mhm.
I used to like a Morgan Ensberg or some Moises Alou, all of those guys, man. It doesn't get no
Billy
Billy
Wagner at one
Wagner,
point, yeah.
Lynch, at
Lance
that.
Berkman.
Yep, Lance Berkman, all of those. Beltran when he first got
Mhm.
traded from the Royals, man. Like I say,
Carlos
like I say,
Lee.
Carlos Lee, we used to rip the cover off the baseball, and all of those guys, man. Like I say, it just don't get no better than that, and stuff like that, man. But like I
Oh
say, definitely,
man.
it takes a lot of guts, you know, to be a for your team to suck this bad, but just to sit up there and take the punch in the mouth. But like I
Mhm.
said, you got to be willing to take it. Just you got to be willing to take it
Yeah.
before you even give it, man. You got to be willing to take it though. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking all the punches in the face right now. And I mean, I just gotta go out there and see what this with these teams do. But right now, we're in a dark hole, and we just gotta
Mhm.
find a way to get out of
And you know what? You just got to find your way out of the trenches. You know what I mean? By the time that bell rings, like, hey, I may be
it.
down, but I'm not out yet.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
not
like
out. Yeah,
that.
I can
That's
get right on back up and compete.
Yep.
Keep competing.
You win some, you lose some, but
Oh
you live
yeah.
to fight another day.
Yep.
Well, this was great content, Dante.
Yes,
Honestly, I
man. I
mean, this
appreciate
was
that.
awesome and everything else. So for all of our fans and viewers and everybody else, all from around the social media platforms, where can they find your content for everything that you produce out there here for the Spotlight Sports Network?
Like I say, y'all can find me at Coach Dante31 on Twitter, Coach Dante31 on Instagram. Y'all can find me on Facebook at Coaches Dante. I'm gonna change it to Coach Dante31. But like I said again, I just like to give a big shout out to the Spotlight Sports Network for the partnership with me. And man, like I said, I'm very interested in working with everybody and working with you more, man. On many more collabs and everybody, man. I definitely thank y'all for welcoming me to the Spotlight Sports Network family. And I'll say when I'm dedicated, I'm here to help the channel grow and help everybody grow and support everybody, man. Like I say, it's not all about me. It's a team effort, man. So I'm just fitting in. I'm just coming in, just fitting in with the rest of you guys, with the team, man. I say y'all been here longer than me, so I'm just fitting in, man. And like I say, I'm here. I'm here to help the channel grow and get everything better, man. So I just like to thank y'all for having me and welcome me to part of the family.
I love it, man. I love the mentality. I love it. You're part of the winning team, man. That's what we're here to do. You know, we
Yeah.
want to be a part of the winning team one way or the other, through thick and thin and through, you know, the forks in the road and so much more, until we stand up on those mountains, man. Well, it's been
Yeah.
great talking with you, man. I
Thank
hope
you so
you
much.
stay safe. Have a great one. And you know something, because the Chargers
Yeah.
do play the Texans in week 16. And we
Yeah.
definitely got to do something here down the
Yeah.
road. So
We definitely just hit me up, man. I'm in, I'm in the group chat, so anytime you need me, man, you definitely can hit me up, man.
absolutely, man. No problem whatsoever,
Yes,
man. I'll
sir.
definitely hit you up for sure. Have a great night, man.
Yes,
Get some
sir.
rest and everything else. Be safe, and we will definitely see you soon.
Thank you, man.
There you go, Coach Dante here on the Spotlight Sports Network, man. It's God, that was such great content. I loved it, but it definitely had a lot of, like, it was a longer stretch. But I love sports like this. I really, really do. Coming up next, I'm going to be wrapping it up very quickly. My best for last is I'm going to be discussing all 32 quarterbacks of all 32 teams, ranking them up from each division. You guys do not want to end up missing that here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Be back in a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank every single one of you guys for being here on a Wednesday night. Man, this was great. We had great content from Coach Dante. You can definitely catch him on Twitter, Instagram, and so many other social media spots. Man, that was great content right there for the time that we had. Oh, it was a lot of fun. So on my best for last, because I've already done the predictions of all of the divisions. Now I'm going to do something special because we have the announcements for a lot of quarterbacks, and we already have a feel of who's going to be the starting quarterback by week 1. So we already have a gist of what we're going to look at and what we're going to see. But we're going to rank all of these quarterbacks from 1 to 4 in each division. And you'll get a feel, and mind you, this is just the start of the season. So I'm going to do this 3 times. So this is the beginning of the season. We're going to do it again by week 9. And then we're also going to do it right there by the end of the regular season going into the postseason. So remember, this could change at any time. But I feel like before the season starts, this is what I'm going to be looking at here, for just before the season. So let's get this started. So we're going to focus on the AFC. So here we are in the AFC East. So from 1 through 4. Number 1, I feel like the best quarterback in that division has got to be Josh Allen. Big payday, transformative quarterback. He's got the best system in Sean McDermott and Brian Dable. Number 2, you know what? And a lot of people could say what they want to, but I'm putting Cam Newton at number 2. The reason Cam is at number 2 right now, the experience in the NFL, and not to mention the juice he might still have. Number 3, Tua Tagovailoa, and number 4, Zach Wilson. So this is respected. Josh Allen, Cam Newton, Tua, and Zach Wilson. The reason of this is because, as I said, there's pressure on Zach Wilson in this division, facing defenses twice a year. It's tough. It's hard. And again, this could change. But Tua at number 3 sounds reasonable because of the fact that he's a guy that doesn't like to make mistakes. And he's also a guy that's very smart and precise with his throws. He actually looked pretty good in some of the preseason games. So Josh Allen, Cam Newton, Tua Tagovailoa, and Zach Wilson from 1 through 4. Let's look at the AFC North. Now, this is tough, but my number 1 quarterback, it's got to be Lamar Jackson. I mean, this guy, run-first offense with John Harbaugh. This is a guy that's really, really making it happen with Baltimore the second he started his rookie season. Number 2 is Ben Roethlisberger. Now, not for long because of the fact of injuries, very Big Ben reliant. I think this might be the last hurrah for him in Pittsburgh, but who knows? But Big Ben, he's won championships. He's also a guy that is, he's grit and grind. So that's where I have him at number 2. Number 3, I got to say is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is number 3. He's not a special quarterback, but he is a guy that can execute and make plays. And this Cleveland team, it's stacked, it's loaded. So who knows? We'll see what happens from here. And then finally, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Now, Joe Burrow's got a lot of really good upside. The only problem that's preventing it is that Cincinnati organization. All these players, all these guys, they've got to stay healthy and they've got to protect Joe Burrow at all costs. And if you could do that, this could be a team, and Joe Burrow might have a dangerous season where I think he's going to end up producing the numbers. So Lamar Jackson, Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, and Joe Burrow from 1 through 4. The AFC South. Now, my number 1 quarterback up over here, and the reason that I say this is because you have to think about all these quarterbacks right now. Number 1 is Ryan Tannehill of Tennessee. He came into a Tennessee system with Mike Vrabel, transformed his game, gave him confidence, gave him a booster, and I thought he was really, really good. So Tannehill at 1. Number 2 is number 2 has got to be Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, to me, I know he's hurt, and I know there's a lot of questions about him, but he is a guy that can still throw a football. And he's very accurate with his passes. I think Frank Reich can change this, boost him up to be the 2017 MVP that he was with the Philadelphia Eagles formerly and winning a championship. Number 3, Trevor Lawrence. You already know with all the positive upsides and everything that you're kind of seeing right now with Jacksonville, he's now the number 1 starter. So I think there's a lot of upside. He's a generational type talent. He's a guy that will do things that nobody has ever seen. And I'm excited to see this kid play. And finally, number 4, because Deshaun Watson is not going to be showing up at all this season. So it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. He's up at number 4. So Ryan Tannehill, Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, and then Tyrod Taylor 1 through 4 in the South. Now let's go to the AFC West. Number 1, it's obviously Patrick Mahomes. Again, a talent like that, throw no look throws, won a championship, and is a guy that just, he's very, very motivational. He's a guy that's a leader, very vocal. Patrick Mahomes is just everything you look for. Number 2, Justin Herbert. I mean, this is a guy who came completely out of the gate and broke the rookie touchdown record, was breaking records left and right. I mean, this is a kid that had such a great season, and it's only going to get better with a better offensive line. He's got his weapons, and the defense looks very promising for Brandon Staley. Number 3, Derek Carr. Say what you want to about Derek Carr and the Raiders. He is efficient. 70% completions, 4,000 yards. It's not a quarterback problem. It's the fact that this organization and this coaching staff has just got to get it right. But again, it's tough to really play it against when you got Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in that same division. But I feel like it's respectfully number 3 in this division. And then number 4, Teddy Bridgewater. Sorry, Drew Lock, but you got locked out of this. You got locked out of this division in this league. So Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, and Bridgewater 1 through 4 in this West. So the AFC is done. Now let's look at the NFC now, the NFC East. So number 1, Dak Prescott. You could say what you want to. Cowboys can't win without Dak. We've already seen this multiple times. They cannot win without Dak. And Dak Prescott is the absolute reason that the Cowboys win games and the vocal leadership. He's a mature adult. He's a leader, and he is a guy that is willing to be all in on this team. And if he gets hurt again, they can't win games. They'll miss in the playoffs. And they've got to make the playoffs. Number 2, this is tough. Number 2, and I gotta say it, but it has to be Jalen Hurts. Number 2 best quarterback. I have yet to see what he does in this offense and how he'll produce. Number 3, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He still has some good upside. He's got a good throwing arm, and I don't think he'll be the starting quarterback for long. But as I've said, don't be surprised if Washington pulls off a move to go and get Gardner Minshew. I mean, that could change. That could very much change. And finally, Daniel Jones. This is do or die moment right now for Daniel Jones and the Giants. He's got to stop coughing the football up. He's got to hold it. He's got to make better throws. You got all these players for a reason. Now it's time to stop fooling around, and it's time to get serious. So Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Daniel Jones. NFC North, number 1 is definitely Aaron Rodgers. That's not changing. This may be the last time we may ever see him at number 1 in this division in the North. But the Packers, you already know that you're going to get a lot from Aaron Rodgers. He's going to win you divisions. He's going to win you games. That's no doubt. Number 2, I feel like is, this right now, I have to say, is Kirk Cousins. Number 2 quarterback. Let me explain this. First of all, I know he can't win primetime games, and this could change, folks, because, again, there's been a lot of news about Kirk Cousins. The Minnesota Vikings want to be done with him, out of it, and so on and so forth, but he won't be number 2 for long. Number 3, Andy Dalton of the Bears. Justin Fields is not going to start just yet. But, again, Andy Dalton, respectfully, number 3 in this division. At some point in time, when Justin Fields is ready and he's structured and he's propped up right, he could easily be a number 2 in this division. If not, strive for number 1 the second Aaron Rodgers is gone. And finally, Jared Goff at number 4. Now, Goff has won games with the Rams, but remember, this is a tough offensive line that doesn't really block a whole lot. I don't know who their top receivers are at all. Like I don't know how Jared Goff is really going to deal with all this adversity, but he's looking at it as a number 4. But he could prove me wrong in this division. So Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Andy Dalton, and Jared Goff. Those are my 1 through 4. NFC South, number 1, it's Tom Brady. You already know that. There's no hesitation here. Tom Brady's number 1 in this division. Easier said than done. Number 2, number 2, it's Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is still a guy that could give you points. He's still a guy that could give you yards and passes. This Atlanta offense now that it has an offensive-minded coach and Arthur Smith, could have a completely different direction. They've got Kyle Pitts. They got Calvin Ridley. They got a lot of really good players. So I think this will be exciting for him. Number 3, Sam Darnold. This is a guy that, as I've said, Carolina is going to be completely different with this offense with Matt Rule. They have a competent owner or an incompetent owner that does not like to wait. He's not patient. He wants to win now. Is competently incompetent in those ways, if it makes sense. But Matt Rule has an offensive playmaking system, and I think Sam Darnold might thrive. I'm telling you, he may be a breakout player. And then finally, Jameis Winston with New Orleans for number 4. I don't know this quarterback scenario right now for New Orleans, but if Jameis could prove me wrong with Sean Payton, if he's got a better direction, but it's only at 4 for right now. Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Sam Darnold, and Jameis Winston, that's 1 through 4. And finally, the NFC West. Number 1 is Russell Wilson. There is nobody that's going to tamper that. There's nobody that's going to basically play around with that. He's honestly been the best quarterback that I've ever seen in my lifetime. A guy that runs, a guy that throws. He's also very motivating. He's a leader. Everything you want in this franchise. He is the franchise for Seattle. And he's done a lot of really, really amazing things, and especially in a division that's tough in the NFC West. Number 2, people are probably going to hate me for this, but I have to say Jimmy Garoppolo. Listen, this is only for right now, okay? This could change. But Jimmy Garoppolo, since he arrived in San Francisco, he had that long stretch run where he was winning games. Say what you want to about injuries, all the rest of this stuff, but he has won games. I like guys that are winning games. I like guys that are playing efficiently. But Jimmy Garoppolo, it's safe to say, it could change at any time, but he's been the number 2 quarterback in this division. Number 3, Kyler Murray. Now, there are some better improvements from Kyler Murray, but the only thing is Cliff Kingsbury's got to make this right. He's got to make it right. You could flip-flop these two with Jimmy G and Kyler Murray. I thought he was really, really good. You could flip-flop them. So however you like to, but Kyler he is the real deal. But the problem is Arizona's just got to make this work. Cliff Kingsbury's on the hot seat. This is where you really got to make things work. And finally, number 4 is Matthew Stafford. I don't know what he's going to do in Los Angeles. You're out of a Detroit system that's a complete tire fire. And Matthew Stafford, I hadn't seen him play a snap in preseason. Maybe that could change, but I got to see how he works with Sean McVay and all of this. So it's only for right now. It's temporary. It's not permanent. It could change at any time. So Russell Wilson, let's flip-flop. Kyler Murray at number 2, Jimmy Garoppolo at number 3, and then Matthew Stafford at number 4 for right now. That's the way that I've looked at it. Alrighty, folks, that's exactly what my predictions are for all of these teams from all 32 teams, all of them in their respective divisions. You can go back and look at it here on this show. But I'm tired now. I am absolutely tired. It's been a really good week. We've had a lot of really good NFL content, and we've had a lot of different stories happening all around. It's been a really good one. And I thank every single one of you guys for being here tonight. So, by the way, Thank you to Coach Dante, who had been here with us on our small interview here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Thank you to the Spotlight Sports Network, of course. We're producing a lot of really good content. And by the way, the Snake Sports Talk Show is only 8 subscribers away from 400. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell button for all latest notifications on all shows. That is going to wrap it up for me. I'm tired. It's been a really good week. It's been really, really good stuff on stories and news. I'll be back up on here on Monday night. You don't want to miss it. 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night, guys. Be safe. I appreciate every single one of you guys, and we will see you guys next week on a Monday. Take care.